Alright, so I'm going to be starting a new video format starting this video. Before, I would have just rambled off on my thoughts without a script. But now I'm actually writing a script for these videos beforehand. Shocking, yes, I know. But being serious, I would watch back on my video essays to see if they were any good, and honestly, they were so unorganized. I mean, I would cover the same points and topics twice, or even 3 times sometimes, throughout a video without even knowing it. And it actually annoyed me when I watched my own videos. So, if I'm going to make these videos, I might as well make them to the best quality I can, right? Right. So, anyway, I do hope you guys enjoy the higher quality videos from now on, and I hope to keep improving for all of you in the future. Now, that's enough for the intro. On to the video. Alibaba is a character that goes through multiple developments throughout Magi, even more so than other characters in Magi since he is the co-main character. His character is handled very well, and his changes seem pretty organic, which is something I'm highly impressed by the author, Shinobu. Shinobu Otaka's management of characters, especially her characters, is definitely one of her strongest suits, as all the characters she draws and creates, they're very human, to say the least, and they feel very real, and they don't feel like characters just for the sake of characters. I know I worded that weirdly, but what I'm trying to say is that she's really good at making realistic characters. To start off with, Alibaba seems to be a despicable person, and even quite petty, right? But as the story goes on, especially throughout the first arc, we see him open up more and his true nature shows, because in reality he is an honest, kind person on the inside, and this is something Aladdin knows when they first meet. Even when his character falls into what seems to be depravity during the Balbad arc, it's always clear that, especially during the Balbad arc, in the reality, he just wants what's best for other people. Truly, that's what he wants at heart. He wants what's best for others. Because, like Aladdin says, he is a good and respectable person at heart, and when Aladdin tells him something along these lines during the first arc, it even makes him cry, which really goes to show you how good of a person he is. There is a lack of confidence and there's self-doubt within him that persists during the first half of the story. And, you know, even after he unlocks his Digital equipped, he still feels self-conscious. He just doubts himself quite a lot. But as time passes, he slowly builds up the confidence to truly be who he is, right? And this person is Alibaba that we see after the time skip, so when he came back from the Dark Continent, when he was with Juliao. This is who Alibaba really is during the final arc. A kind person who's outgoing and smart, and is always doing what's best for people in need. He's a king not for himself or even for his friends, but rather for the betterment of the people. Even as a child who grew up in the slums, Alibaba always tried to live his life as honestly as he could, which is also a reason why Qasim hated him, but we'll be getting into that later on during his relationship with Qasim. Now let's talk about his backstory and his history. So to start off with, Alibaba grew up and lived in the slums of Balbad with his mother, whose name was Anis. After his friends, Qasim and Mariam's abusive father had mysteriously vanished, because that implies that Qasim probably took care of his father, who was very abusive. Anis had adopted the two into her family. They were all pretty happy despite the circumstances that they were in, until unfortunately Anis died to an illness, because this is an anime, manga, and the main character's parents just need to die. That's standard. So Qasim took care of them since he was the eldest out of the 3, because there was no one else to look after them. As a child, Alibaba always tried to live his life as honestly as he could. The king of Balbad visited the slums one day, and he revealed that Alibaba was actually his son, and told him to live in the palace. Alibaba talked to Qasim about it. He wanted to discuss it with him, but Qasim thought of them as different human beings because of this information, which is a bit harsh, but it was what it was, and that gave Alibaba the push to just go on and live in the palace. After a few years, the king had fallen ill with a deadly disease, right? And the king, he wished Alibaba to rule over the kingdom when he was gone, because obviously Alibaba's a pretty stand-up guy. He's pretty honest, like I've said 10 times in this video, and he learnt very well, he was well-mannered, he was well-educated, and he was just a good person. So the king, who we know is a good guy, who helped Sinbad, decided he wanted Alibaba to handle the country. But Alibaba refused and stated that the other two should handle the country. And it was also at this time that the king had informed Alibaba that he did love Anis, Alibaba's mother, because Alibaba asked. That same night, Qasim and his boys, that same night, Qasim and his men had invaded the palace to steal and attack it, well, steal from the palace and attack it in general. They'd snuck in through a weakness that Alibaba had exposed when he left the palace to meet up with Qasim a short while ago. Alibaba snuck out of the palace to meet with Qasim in the slums, and then he accidentally let out that he snuck out of the palace to Qasim, and that kind of highlighted a weakness that the palace had. And now Qasim, he's using that weakness that he found out from Alibaba to his advantage, so that him and the lads, right, they could invade the palace and steal from him. After the castle had been eaten up and flames just was burning, and Alibaba was knocked out, but he had awoken. The next morning, the news of his father passing had arrived to Alibaba. And because of this, Alibaba ran away from Balbad due to his guilt and fear. It was then that during his travels out of the country that he met Aladdin in the very first chapters and arcs. That was when he met Aladdin. So all of that happened, and then finally he met Aladdin during his journeys. And the rest is history. He played a major role during the dungeon arc, where he and Aladdin defeated Jamal, no one likes that guy, and Morgiana in combat, received all the treasure and wealth from the dungeon, and most importantly, Amon became Alibaba's Dijin. Alibaba separated from Aladdin once they escaped the dungeon, but he hoped to meet him again one day so they could go on another adventure, because they had formed quite a bond during their time traveling through the dungeon, because at first, Alibaba was just going to use him, but Aladdin knew better, and he knew what was truly in the heart of Alibaba. He knew he was a good person. So, after all of this, well, his true journey began, and the rest from there is history. I mean, if I were to just make a video talking about everything he's done after that point, it would be a 2-hour video, and I would not be able to write that script, because he is involved in pretty much every arc, beside the Almatoran arc. Not that one, but regardless, everything that happens after that, that's just Magi, the Magi story that you know. Now his character relationships. So I'm just going to kind of blitz through these, and I'll have it on the screen of who I'm talking about. So with Aladdin, he's best friends with him, and the two are very close. Notably, they are clubbing buddies, and they go to brothels occasionally to fool around with girls. With Morgiana, they ended up getting married, if you read the end of Magi, of course, and the lovers. He sees Hakuryu as someone who is very similar to Qasim, and he states that he highly resembles him. So I guess there's that. He does like Hakuryu though. I think even after everything that happened, he is still pretty close with Hakuryu, of course. Qasim is much like a brother to Alibaba. Qasim's Maho, his magic, actually mixed with Alibaba's after Qasim's death. Now that is very important, because the whole reason, I don't want to get into this now, but the whole reason that there was a kind of imbalance within Alibaba's own Maho was because Qasim's had mixed with his after his death. Now with Sinbad, Alibaba admired Sinbad and wanted to be like him because he read stories about his exploits. And eventually they met, they became friends, and eventually in the final arc, they were even rivals. Toto grows to respect Alibaba after watching him in the fights in the Colosseum, but of course does not like him when they first meet because of what he did when they fought. Shah Rukh Khan is his fencing teacher, and they're drinking buddies, and he often compares the skill of other fencers he fights to Shah Rukh Khan's. Shah Rukh Khan's a beast. Who doesn't like Shah Rukh Khan? And now onto, well, my favorite part of making these, the powers and abilities of Alibaba. So his base abilities. Since he was trained at a young age in swordplay, he is very strong and talented in terms of swordsmanship right off the bat. He was just excellent. After training and learning with many other sword styles from Shah Rukh Khan, of course, he became much stronger and was even able to best Toto in a fight. And after further training in the Rem Empire, remember when he went for to train and learn how to Dijin equip, his base strength had just dramatically increased, as well as his skill, of course. His skill in swordsmanship and swordsplay had just boosted. So even without his Dijin, he is very, very powerful, far stronger than normal human. Now, another, probably the most interesting ability I think in Magi, because it's so unique, is just a unique ability. It's his increased concentration. Now, during his time with the magicians of Almatoran in the Dark Continent, first of all, he had gained a vast knowledge of magicians of that time. That's just enough. But the most importantly, after he came back to his original body after the 2 years in the Dark Continent, he'd gained the ability to enter extreme concentration. And this pretty much gave him the ability to not literally slow down time, but from his perspective, it was like time had slowed down. He was just so concentrated. It was so intense that from his viewpoint, time was at a complete slowdown. It was just incredibly slow. It's actually an incredibly broken ability. Not only this, but he is able to process information at a superhuman rate, to say the least, due to this ability, as he was able to read the documents to do with the Co-Empire in the final arc in less than 2 weeks. He was able to read all of them on that country in less than 2 weeks. That would have taken a normal human several years to do. Yeah, increased concentration, incredibly broken. incredibly broken. Another one of his abilities is Maho manipulation, which was a major part, and Sinbad told him to go and learn this because it would have killed him if he didn't learn this. He learned how to manipulate his Maho during his time at the Colosseum. Had he not done this, he would have died. This was because like I've said before, this was because his and Qasim's soul, Maho, were kind of inside of him, and they were both just there. There was two Maho inside of him, and if he didn't learn how to control it, it would have just killed him. So he learned how to control it, and he actually ended up fusing his and Qasim's Maho, which is pretty interesting, honestly. So next, let's talk about his Dijin equip. His Jin equip, after conquering the 7th dungeon, he was able to control, well, not really control, but use the abilities of the Jin Amon. Now, once he'd conquered the 7th dungeon, Amon had taken residence within Alibaba's small knife, which he had at the time, which turned it into a vessel by extension. And after he broke his knife in Balbad, he used a short sword, which was given to him by Sinbad, to kind of change and make it that into his new metal vessel. So after the Balbad arc, that short sword he has, that's his metal vessel that you see, yeah, he got that from Sinbad, and that is now his, of course, metal vessel. Now he has members of people in his household, and these are Morgiana, Olba, the pirate guy, and Toto, the gladiator. His abilities in his Dijin equipped are Almo, I'm very, very sorry I'm going to butcher these. Almo Saiqa, alright? Listen, I'm from the Middle East, I'm pronouncing it right, I don't want to hear anything. And Almo Berka. Now, Almo Der Saiqa, I'm just going to say it in a British accent, alright? Not going to try to say it in an Iraqi accent. Almon de Saika summons a vortex of flames which can be used with conjunction to his swordplay, and Almon Berka forms a wall of flames so he can use it to block people from coming anywhere or wall people off. After mastering his Dijin equipped, he's capable of using flight like every other Dijin equipped user. It drastically boosts his speed and attack power, but most importantly, he is capable of using extreme magic. Now his extreme magic, Almon al-Badar Saika, he is able to summon a massive warrior made of flames wielding a massive sword made of flames, and during his fight with Hakuryu, he was able to actually transform that warrior into a phoenix with 6 wings, which was strong enough to fight back against Hakuryu's own extreme magic. So it's pretty strong. Right now I'm leaving a picture of his stats, which I found on the wiki page. I'm just gonna leave that for a few seconds, so here are some trivia facts which I actually saw on the wiki, and I thought I'll just include it. So fun facts and trivias. His weakness is that he gains weight easily. In his free times, he enjoys reading the adventures of Sinbad stories and writes his own adventures. His most important possession is Qasim's piercing. The Magi from the Roman Empire, whose name I'm not going to butcher because I cannot pronounce it, thinks that Alibaba is very similar to the first king vessel, since he also had a taste for indecent places. Which, is that referring to Sinbad? Well, I didn't actually think about that. The first king vessel, was that Sinbad? I think it was, right? Anyway, his name is based on Alibaba, the hero of Alibaba and the 40 Thieves from 1001 Nights, which is actually a great story if you guys haven't read it. Well, I'm from the East, so I have. In his early designs, Alibaba was supposed to be a gladiator with a quieter and more stoic personality, but Shinobu Otaka discarded the idea because, according to her, she's better at creating more expressive characters, which I agree, she's great at that. And a nice, well, trivia to end this on, when asked who he wishes were his real siblings, Alibaba chose Qasim and Mariam, and those two commented, "We too think of you as our real brother." A really nice way to end it. Now, this is the outro. Thank you all so much for watching. If you made it this far, I'm grateful that you spent your time watching, seriously, and I hope you did enjoy the video. If you want to watch more videos like these, video essays about Magi, consider subscribing and comment who you want to see next, because I read and respond to every single comment. But if not, if this is just a one-time thing, you don't want to, that's fine. I mean, just thank you for spending your time to watch this video. That is more than enough, and I hope you have a great day. To everyone. And that's all, folks. See you in the next video essay, which is probably Sinbad. No promises, though.